Cannot get into this meeting.
You can't get in?
All I see is a blank page. Something's
Yeah, I'm
wrong
having
with the way this is set up.
Yeah, this is Bert. I'm having the same problem. All I get is the screen to launch the meeting, but no anything else.
No picture.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
There's no control, there's no nothing.
Oh, start.
So the link is screwed up again.
Huh.
What, all right, I see myself on the right. I see Bert on the right finally.
Okay.
But that white page that we're looking at, the Zoom meeting homepage, that's not supposed to be there.
You're supposed to be able to see Dorothy or Ann.
I know, right?
So who's controlling the page? I see somebody's cursor is working on the page.
That's me, but I'm trying, I don't know how to,
Go up and hit the go up and hit the X on the upper right.
right here.
Yeah.
Oh, right here? No, that's, nothing happened.
Yeah, this page isn't supposed to be here.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
We can see I can see Bert and I can see myself. You're on Town Committee 3, which has its own kinks.
Right.
We can hear each other.
Right.
But I'm not seeing a picture of myself or of Linda.
Yeah.
I never
yeah.
do picture, so don't worry about me, but usually I see
I
everybody.
worry about you all the time.
Shows, what's this? Show small active speaker.
And do you see anybody else in the meeting or just
No.
the two of us?
No, just the two of you so far.
Well, I'm wondering right now if we're on a different page than everybody else. That's happened before also.
Oh, God.
Be glad we all get vaccinated in and we don't have to do this anymore.
Oh, my God, Bert. Yeah, it says no upcoming meetings today. Return to meeting.
I have a feeling everybody else is on a different page.
Oh, Brooke,
Well,
here's another one. Admit, Brooke just came in. Oh,
Yeah,
there's
everyone-
Brooke.
I can see Brooke.
Oh, you know what? I have my camera covered.
So we're not supposed to be able to see this white page here, this Zoom page. Here's what to do with your meeting recording and all that crap. That's never supposed to be up there.
Right. Ay. Oh, there's Bert.
There's
Yeah,
Bert.
it was me. I didn't click off on start video at the bottom of my screen.
I don't know what to do with this thing here. Let's see.
Do we have a monitor from NCTV? Normally Andrew or somebody else is on at the beginning of these meetings and that they can get rid of that screen.
I don't think we do. Mute my audio, stop video, rename, pin, spotlight for everyone. Should I try that? Add profile picture, hide self view. I don't know.
Click share screen, see if your screen jumps over that one.
You are sharing. Let's see, new share. No, that's not it.
If you click
Um,
share screen, oh, you cannot share screen well enough.
No, this isn't the same as a regular meeting.
So who opened the meeting?
Try post attendee Zoom.
Say that again.
You see the post attendee Zoom up on the left?
Up on the left, post attendees. Yep.
No, right below it.
Oh, yep.
I don't know what that'll do.
Click. Should I get out of it or click on it or whatever? Oh,
You can try. post-
getting out of it. Close tab.
yeah.
I'm afraid to touch anything.
So Ann, did you
Okay.
start the meeting?
Say that again.
Did you start the meeting?
No, we don't have a quorum. Go up to the upper right X.
That's not what I'm asking. Who
This
opened
one right here.
the
Yeah.
Zoom?
Okay. Well, you don't want to see the pictures of my
Got rid of
grandkids.
that.
I don't know who, somebody at NC, this is not a live meeting. That's the problem. It's a recorded meeting. So we don't always have a guy from the NCTV.
Ann,
Yep.
is that your screen that we're seeing?
Yeah, with the two kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. At the bottom, there should be a button that says stop sharing.
Stop sharing. Okay. Oh, yep.
Over the bottom.
Ah,
There
success.
you are, Ann.
Yeah, you can see the top of my head.
Yay,
Okay.
Thank you, Brooke.
no problem.
Oh, there we go.
Learned a lot about Zoom in the last 6 months. I never wanted to know.
Okay, is anybody, oh, Rachel is waiting, okay.
We don't have a quorum yet, probably.
No, we need one more. Dorothy was on her way somewhere, maybe to get onto the computer, I don't know. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Hey, Rachel, you might know, how is the town doing with vaccinations? Has the island home all been done?
Oh, yes. If not me, somebody else will possibly read it into the COVID update tonight. We have done, yesterday was the first round for the island home, and it went beautifully. There was a little bit of technical hiccup in the very beginning, but they got all residents and staff that were needed vaccinated the first time yesterday. And I think the next one is on the 26th, something like that. But they did great. And from what I was told, it was probably the greatest display of teamwork and everything that they've ever had. It doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot goes into getting that many people vaccinated in a short period of time.
When they go to the over 65 people after the police and fire now, are they gonna do that out at the VFW or at the hospital, or where do they plan to do that?
So the health department is coordinating that right now at the hospital. And what they're looking to do is potentially use the VFW, but there are certain segments that they're looking to coordinate with. So reaching out to Landmark and some of the home healthcare agencies. The residents at Sherwood Commons that are in the main building were part of this round, but those in the cottages were not, because the cottages are not considered an assisted living, and that's the only applicable one during phase 1. So all of those need to be coordinated, and they'll probably, hopefully do it at the VFW, because that's a great location. I believe our town vaccination plan right now has the school as the location, but there's some work being done on the logistics of all of that. But thankfully the island home went through a successful first round, and they're all very excited.
Did they do the Landmark in the homestead?
They are not considered assisted livings or SNFs, and those are the only ones that are eligible in phase 1. So they will be part of the coordination in phase 2.
Good. Hello, Dorothy.
Hi, Bert. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dorothy.
Hi, Dorothy.
And hi, Brooke. It looks like
Hi,
we have,
everybody.
hey, John. Looks like we have a quorum, I believe, available. One, correct?
Yes, we're just missing Jill.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And can I please get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Okay.
Seconded by John. Can I get a roll call on it? Bert?
Aye.
John?
Hi.
Brooke?
Yes.
Linda?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. I wanted to go over a few things before we start today in the process that we're about to begin. One of them, trying to give a better understanding of what our role is in what we are doing as the contract review committee. Our job, or what we're supposed to be doing for the town, is looking at human services as defined as human services are organizations which I'm going to read you a definition that I think sort of does it. It's a definition of human services is a service that provide to people in order to help them stabilize their life and find self-sufficient through efficiency through guidance, counseling, treatment, and providing for basic needs. This can come in many forms. And it goes on to talk about the forms. And the basic needs can be the ones looking for shelter, food, a safe environment, homeless children, abusive situations, so forth, which are the organizations that come forward to us. But in diversity, we talk about it is a practice of including people from all ranges of different and social and ethnic backgrounds and different genders and sexual orientation. And I just want us to remember that, you know, I understand that we are looking at, we have a very diverse community. When my son graduated from high school, there were 13 different countries represented on that stage. And I think it's really important that we don't, when we're talking about things, that we actually also remember all of the diversities in this community, which is every single population, including our own, which is really, really important and should never be lost in the process of what we're doing. Because it is why we're here. And we're here to actually the contract review committee and this funding given by the town is to help promote human services to people who are in need of those services. And I want us to remember that as we go through this process. It's about, is it, it could be, there could be different reasons each year that we might see something in a greater need than maybe the year before. But we really have to remember the importance of the role that we're doing, and that we look at this through every single eye and every single person that might need these services throughout the upcoming year. Okay. So just a reminder, everybody, as we go through this, it's really important that we look at it that way. Also, one of the things that sort of has come up as we've been going through things, I've come up with questions over the last couple, over last year's contracts and things that maybe we've had in discussion that I don't feel that we've made clear enough in our contracts. And so as we go into the deliberations this year and do our appointments of funding, I think it's going to be extremely important that I'm just going to come up with something weird. Let's say the Jetties came in and we were funding them and they were asking for $1,000 for ice cream and $2,000 to give water. Would we fund the ice cream? Do we want to fund ice cream? Do we want to fund water? Do we want to fund both? Even though they're never an entity. We just need to make sure that we're very clear on where our funding is going and how that funding that we are appointing is used. Because I think there's been a couple that have come up this year for me, and I've been like, whoa, wait a minute, that wasn't in our conversation. But for some reason, we weren't clear enough on what we had decided in our deliberations as far as where we wanted the funding. So I think not only for us in the future that we see that this funding is done properly, but that when they go to write the contracts, people like Rachel or whoever might be writing the contracts has a better understanding of where we stood when we made those votes. Okay. So I'm asking that we be very clear about that as we go forward in our deliberations. Brooke.
As a new person, is there an example from last year's contracts that would be helpful for me to understand what you mean?
Yes, I can give you a couple of them. The other day, when Cape Mediation came in all of their presentations to us, it was made, as far as I thought, clear, and I went back and spoke with a past board member as well, that we were funding their transportation to the island. To provide these services. But then when I looked at this year's contract or this year's grant and looked at how they took the fiscal year last year's money, it was paid towards the executive director's salary. And I did not, and then that's why I asked that question at the end when I said to them, like, Turo only pays this and that, but you only, are we paying your executive director? It was not what we were presented at our meeting. That doesn't mean that isn't what they put in the scope of their services. It could have been our misrepresentation of what came into us. So I just want us to be very, very clear, and that when we do that, that we say, yes, we want to fund $1,000 of Cape Mediation to travel to the island. We will give an extra, the other $1,500 for them to use the executive services, the time and energy used by the executive director to put the program into place. Rachel, I saw that your hand came up.
Yeah, I think one thing that I mentioned to Dorothy that helps us when we're trying to develop these contracts, and it happened last year, is as you go through your deliberations, usually you have a set amount of money and then you award through, and you're sort of sometimes ended with a smaller pool. And so 2 examples last year were with Mcfairwinds and Nantucket Cottage Hospital, where their ask was much higher than what you ended up awarding them. So for instance, I think Mcfairwinds was $242,000 and you decided to award them 116 and change. But if all your vote is saying, okay, we're going to give 116,000 to Mcfairwinds, we're then charged with, okay, well, how does that filter out and where their block of requests are? And sometimes it's in the notes, and sometimes as we're attending the meetings, as the staff that are developing the contracts, we understand where you want the bulk to go. But it's easier when you, as part of your motion, say, we're gonna give 116,000, whatever, and change. This amount goes here, this amount goes here. We're not funding this. And so sometimes it gets a little wishy-washy, especially if they had certain things in their request. ASAP is another good example, which is now NAMI, because there were certain elements of their request during your deliberations last year that some of you were not a part of, that you did not feel were necessary to fund, but you wanted to give them funding to go to other places. So sometimes it's easy for us to put in the notes, but if it's not clear, that could be somewhat challenged. It's usually not, but it's better if your motion is clear with exactly what dollar amount is going to what purpose of their request.
Madam Chairman, the CPC does that. They make an application for something in particular, and we are very specific when we make the motion for funding as to what exactly we are funding. It eliminates any question. And if they spend the money on something that we did not specifically allow, we have a problem. And the state
Right.
has a problem.
Right. And so last year, I think that there was discussion even with the hospital CACs, because they're mandated by the state to provide them, that we did not want to fund the CACs, and it looks like we did. And I think that those are the kind of things I want us to look at as we go forward. We had a problem come up in a previous grant with Mcfairwinds where they were giving out Narcan, which was not in part of our agreement, and we found out about it, and the town then went back and said, we're not funding the Narcan. That wasn't your distribution of the Narcan. We were able to find that one at the time, but this, as I'm looking at this year's requests, the CACs are in there again, but we did a lot of research last year into what is provided by partners in all of their healthcare facilities in the state, and CACs are mandated. And so we were like, well, why are we paying for CACs that are mandated anyway? So those are the kind of things that as we look at everything and we go into this process as it comes forward to us, I want us to look at it and say, well, are we, we want to fund this particular thing and we want to give money towards this, but we aren't going to fund, other things that we've already decided weren't appropriate for us to fund. Because they can get funding resources through other entities, and maybe there's some other people that need the funding and they can't get that through other entities. Any other questions? Yeah, Brooke.
So does our application require a chart of how the request is allocated by usage?
It doesn't have that, but what it does have is the delegation of where your services will be. And some people will give us a broken down. ASAP actually gives a breakdown of exactly where they're putting their funding. They're one of the only that puts it to such great description. I think Health Imperatives tells us where they're putting it, a certain percentage of it. Mcfairwinds did for a few years. They would tell us they were putting a certain amount of money towards mentoring youth when they had mentoring youth, some towards the sliding scale. And so it depends on the application. I'm going to let Rachel answer that, Brooke, before you ask another question. Okay. Sorry, Rachel.
Because this was such an issue in the prior years, for this particular grant packet year, we actually added a sentence in number 3, statement of cost. So if you look at their grant package, the original blank request packet, and Anne can probably send one around if most of them have just removed that and just put 3 statement of cost, but I can reach you what the first sentence is because we were challenged by this. It says state the total cost of the services you intend to provide and include a total budgeted amount for each area service you intend to provide. If, for example, you are requesting funds for 3 project areas, include how much of the total cost each area would receive. And that way when you are deliberating and discussing the dollar amount you're awarding, you have the breakdown per service area. So if you're not requesting to fund a service area, or if you're decreasing the amount that they requested in your award, we know which service area to decrease. If they do not provide that, I highly recommend that during your discussions with each of the individual agencies, you ask them to give that, so that when you do say, we are not fully funding you, but we're giving you this, your motion can break it down to the service areas and how much you're funding each one.
It does.
Sometimes it's a challenge that we don't see as you're going through the process, but it becomes one when we start looking at what you awarded and what the contract breakdown was when we, staff-wise, are trying to actually develop the contract.
Okay, so on these, Rachel, I think looking at the three that we have right now in front of us, I can see that the Fairwinds did it. The Interfaith Council did it according to the request of number 3. And I'm looking right now at statement of cost was put in. NCH did theirs too. They didn't break it down as to number 3, but they did put it there. And that was the chart, the new chart everybody got today. Did everybody see that new chart that came out from Ann yesterday?
Janice is waiting. Should I let her come in?
Yeah, I'm just asking everybody, did you get the chart, the reform chart?
I'm opening it now.
Okay. It's just, that's the amendment to your application from Cottage Hospital.
Yeah.
And yes, we're gonna let hi Janice, I see your picture.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't put on the video. Let me see. Let me get that done. Come on. Oh, come
At
on.
least I'm not the only one having trouble with Zoom.
Maybe you don't want
Oh.
to see me in person anyway. Start the video.
There you go.
There you are. Hi Janice.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Janice, I'm gonna just go over a few things. First of all, just so you know, this meeting is recorded.
Okay.
Okay. What I'm going to have you do is please introduce yourself, since we have some new board members, and then everybody will introduce themselves. And I see that Jill, are you here?
He's on mute.
Yeah, I'm here. I
Okay.
can't be on video today. Sorry, Dorothy. It's
Yeah.
too crazy in my house.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know if I could see you. So hi.
Hi.
Okay, so Janice.
Okay. My name is Janice Carrero. I am the executive director for the, excuse me, Nantucket Interfaith Council's food, fuel, and rental assistance program. Reverend Max Wolf, who is the current president of the Interfaith Council, may join us. I'm not sure. Terry Vigil, who usually joins us and is the treasurer of the organization, had an emergency at her house this morning, and there's some contractors there and cannot join us.
Okay. Bert.
Oh, Bert Johnson, Janice, representative from Planning and Economic Development Commission on this one.
That's it. Thank you. John?
Melange, member at large. Guess we know each other.
Brooke?
Hi, Janice. Brooke Moore, and I'm here from Council for Human Services. Nice to see you this morning.
We keep meeting too often.
I know.
Linda?
Member at large, Janice knows me well,
Vice versa.
too well.
Jill?
You're on
Hi,
mute.
Janice. It's Jill Veith, and I'm the representative of the Finance Committee. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Jill.
And you know me, Janice, so hi.
Hello.
You know this process. If you could make your presentation and then we'll ask questions.
Okay, I think with the exception of Jill, I could be wrong. Pretty much everyone else on the committee has heard me in one forum or another before. We provide food, fuel, and rental assistance to residents of the island who may have some financial difficulties and are having trouble either feeding, paying their rent, or keeping their houses warm during that period of financial instability. We operate the Nantucket Food Pantry, which has been around for 30 plus years. And that program feeds anyone that comes to them and says they need help with food. I think you're all pretty familiar with the program. It basically in normal times, the program operates with clients coming to the pantry and selecting a variety of foods from a menu that we have available. The pantry is open. It used to be open only 2 days a week, but in the last year, we've increased that to 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. You probably also know that during the pandemic surge in the spring, we had to move the pantry out of its tiny quarters twice during the summer, and we converted to a entirely home delivery service. We went back to clients coming back to us in the late summer and the fall, principally because we were able to expand the pantry's location into the NRTA bus terminal, which gave us the ability to operate in a safe manner. We are now, with the second surge of COVID, doing a combination of in-person and home delivery. The home delivery basically is for seniors who cannot get to the pantry, other folks with disabilities, and now folks who are directly affected by COVID and are in quarantine or isolation for either disease or exposure. The rental assistance program in normal times helps individuals for a short period of time while they are facing financial difficulty with either paying a portion of their rent for a period of time or paying all of the rent for a shorter period of time while they are in crisis. We also help move individuals out of unsafe housing into permitted housing. That program has been in existence since 2004. Heating assistance, we process applications under the state LIHEAP program, low income heating assistance program. We also work with the Salvation Army to do a one-time fuel assistance to folks who do not meet LHEAP. And we have our own direct payment program, which will pay an individual who may be facing a shutoff with a one-time or at max two-time assistance. I must say that in the last year, we are doing more work under the direct payment program than under LHEAP for two reasons, and I've mentioned this before. Once you are enrolled in the state program, they take over that program, they take over that client, and they do a direct, in subsequent years, they do a direct with the client in re-upping for the program. So as more and more people are on the program, there are fewer and fewer newer people who can apply. That is a federally funded state program, and it has very, very strict criteria that clients must meet. That's the program in a nutshell. I think you all know in the last year, things have gone out off the charts in terms of what we expected to do and what we are doing. I think you saw in your packet what the numbers looked like for the latter half of the last fiscal year. And I can tell you that December and January of this year are breaking those numbers. I think we helped 45 people in December. It is now January the 6th, and we already have 53 people.
And
that
which program is
numbers-
that, Janice?
Sorry?
Which
The
program?
rental assistance, yeah.
Rental assistance, sorry.
The food pantry is obviously seeing an increase in home delivery and in numbers of people as well. But the real hit is with rental assistance right now. That will probably, I have no idea how long this is going to go on. I think this is going to have an indirect effect on the fiscal year 22 program. Nobody knows what that's going to look like. So when I wrote this grant, I averaged out a non-COVID year and last year in which the latter half of the year had COVID. Based on the numbers I'm seeing now, this is going to continue. I'm thinking a while. I saw the hospital notice today that the general public will probably not get vaccinated until June. Nobody knows what the economy is going to look like when companies are going to open in March, April, or May, if they're going to bring back the same number of employees, or we're going to have the same number of tourists if they don't come all with vaccinations. So I'm expecting July, August, September to still be very high, but I don't have a crystal ball. So my request is basically requesting a slight increase from the previous years because we have increased from part-time to full-time to staff members. We may need to bring on a third, depending on workload. The cost of operations, particularly with PPE, the additional training, the additional cost of employees, the additional cost of transportation, the increased benefits. I think it's going to cost us more to operate the program. And that's why I made the $15,000 additional request. Not, of course, assuming that I was going to get the $70,000 I got this year, but that was my basis. That was my reasoning. That's it.
Hey, Bert, you there?
Yep, I'm here. Let me put the video back on.
We only see the top of your head, Bert. Oh, no, we don't see you at all.
See me now?
Yeah, Bert, I'm going to leave it to you if you have questions for Janice.
Yeah, are we separating the administrative from the help that goes to the people?
This grant has traditionally been used to operate the program. We get grants and donations from other organizations which are restricted to paying benefits only. This is helping us run the program. You cannot have you can't run a program without funding, and that's what we use this grant for.
Are we the only ones that's funding the administration?
No, you're funding a small piece of it. I have other funding that I use, obviously, for that. I mean, you've seen what it costs, what the operational costs are, and $70,000 doesn't come near. What did I say it was about? I told you what it was. It was
The operating costs are $620,000 for the whole program.
Yes, but that includes benefit. That includes rental
in its entity.
Yeah, but I mean, let me find it. I think I've said it's approximately, you pay about 13% of the operating costs.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you done, Bert? No other
Yeah.
questions? Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, that's what I say too. He's
John.
mellowed. Thank you, Bert.
John Balash. I can't hear you,
No,
John.
no, you can't. I just unmuted.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything further.
Okay, no questions? Okay,
No,
Brooke,
no.
or John, wait, I'm gonna go back. Did you say did you have one?
No, I didn't. I don't.
Okay, I'm sorry. Brooke,
Janice, do you want to talk a little bit about the new collaborative effort around COVID? Just, I know collaboration is an important priority for this group. And as a new member, I'd love for you to share a little bit about what's happening on that level.
Well, obviously, you know as much about that, if not more than I do. But and correct me if I'm wrong, Brooke, but I think this came out of a Board of Select person meeting where they wanted a group to focus on how we could encourage folks affected by COVID to remain in quarantine or isolation and not be worrying about going to the grocery store for food or paying their rent or paying other bills that would prevent them from staying at home. I think that was the initial impetus. I believe you formed a group that has as its members the Family Resource Center. I'm going to miss somebody, please. Our organization, the new town Human Services Director, who plays an advisory role, the ELL Center, Fairwinds, the representative from the school. Who am I missing, Brooke?
I got to go through the list. Yeah.
Okay, and we've been discussing how to disseminate information to the public, specifically those affected by COVID, and how to make their contact easier so that they can get services that are needed. And the result is that the Family Resource Center will serve as a focal point for receiving initial calls, doing a preliminary intake, and then disseminating that information to agencies who have the potential to provide service under their established programs. Obviously, food, fuel, utility, rent are a significant part of that, as well as paying other bills that individuals might have. I believe the ELL has a grant to do some of that. Fairwinds obviously would be dealing with mental health issues, but the primary goal was to have a single number to call, and then hopefully saving some of my time as one organization, taking that intake, referring that to us. I think there is postcards are being printed. Jericho is on, and they will be disseminated initially in a limited fashion to meet that mandate. Now I'm getting way beyond where I should be, Brooke.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Janice. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I think it's important to note that out of the Healthy Community Collaborative meeting a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, this group formed, and it really came out of initiative from Rachel and town administration. And so I just wanted to point out that these groups are coming together to facilitate access to services and actually hopefully to save each other work in terms of an initial triage and intake, so that folks get pointed to the agencies that actually are set up to serve their needs, instead of people having to sort of dial for dollars around to the different programs that are out there. So just want to talk about that collaboration a little bit.
Yeah, and I think how that relates to this grant is, I think while that is going to save us some initial time that we may get we get multiple calls First I get a call from the husband with one telephone number, and then I get a call from the wife with another telephone number, and then sometimes they use this name or that name. This group will save that time for us. But the other side of that coin is that's going to increase workload. And that means somebody's got to pay for workload. And that's why this grant is important. Again, if I knew what I know now, when I wrote the grant a year ago, and when I wrote the grant 3 months ago, I might be asking for something different, but we are where we are.
Okay, that's all I.
Okay, Linda.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Rob's
I
not
have no questions. We, to go back to something I said last year about the staffing for these things, the CPC requires that there be staffing, and which is how we started having paid, which is how Janice really started getting paid in order to get the funding from the CPC. So we cover some of that for the housing part of it, rental assistance.
Yeah, Linda, can you just elaborate? I think you told us that the CPC actually gave them more funding this year than they asked. Was it 250,000 they got?
No, Janice, I think you got 150 from us, right?
This year we have 170.
170, because they asked for less. We had money this year because we only had 5 applicants. And we felt that the need was crucial, given the COVID, and we can see a bad winter coming for a lot of people. So we gave them extra money this year, but our money is restricted because of the 3 areas we can give money for. Our money is restricted to the rental assistance side of this. But many years ago, we required Interfaith to hire somebody instead of doing it out of Georgia Snell's kitchen. And that's how we have Janice.
For fiscal year 22, we requested 200,000. I mean, town meeting will tell us what we get. But I would add that.
Yeah, then we gave you 250.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, but our agreement with the CPC is that only a small portion of that goes towards a portion of administrative cost. That the preponderance of that goes to
Direct services.
And yeah, they're our biggest funder for paying rents.
Okay, so Linda, you're saying that for fiscal year 2022, they asked for 200,000 and you guys gave 250,000. Is that correct?
That's my recollection. It's been several months, but I believe that's where we ended up. We gave them more than they asked for.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that, Linda. Jill, you have any questions?
Yeah, just a few, Janice. Thanks for your time and thanks for your really thorough application. I wanted to ask a few kind of disjointed questions just because I'm new on the committee and I wanted to understand it better.
Okay.
What is your operating cost now this year? Because I assume that's changed since you filled this out.
Well, I have not changed the initial budget for fiscal year 2021. What has happened is, as I have received additional funding, I've just added that to the actuals to date. The additional fundings from the grant, from the fiscal year 2021 budget that I gave to you, is that we received $30,000 from the Nantucket Community Foundation Relief Fund to help pay December rents.
It was only $30,000. I thought they gave you a lot more.
only for the month of December. My agreement with the Community Foundation is that we would ask on a month-to-month basis, only on the basis of need, because I have no idea, what the need would be. I didn't want to ask for a $200,000 grant and have everybody going back to work in March.
Right.
So my agreement with them was, I will ask you month to month and I will show you what I need.
That's so responsible, Janice.
Right,
That's,
so they gave us 30,000 in, for December, and we paid out 62,000 in rents. They gave us, the check came in yesterday. They gave us $40,000 for January, and we have paid out 75,000 in rent as of today. And that is coming from annual appeal monies. It's coming from this, primarily the relief grant. And then if the town board chooses to approve this donation that will be coming from one of their contractors in January, then we will have another 38,000 to apply to the February rents. We are going month to month. So to answer your question, those are the increases, and we do have an annual appeal underway, and the community is very generous, and we will use those funds as they come in. But there's no way to write it in a planned budget because you haven't. It's just
no,
everything.
definitely. That's why I wanted to understand it better, because I thought I read that they gave you like one huge lump sum, and I was like, wow, that
No, what they
changed your world to like double your, what you're receiving all of a sudden, and they're like, oh my gosh, not that you can't use it, you can, but it's hard to manage that kind of.
Well, let me explain, Jean, that Jill, in the spring, when the total shutdown occurred, a group was formed called Act Saves, and they raised $375,000, and they gave it to us with the expressed, you must buy food, you must pay rent, and that's the way we were able to pay $500,000 worth of rent, and we were able to get Stop and Shop gift cards for distribution. It wouldn't have happened without that. So
Right.
the same situation with the Community Foundation. I believe they wrote a grant to the state for 200,000. I don't believe that that's exclusively for us, but I think the predominant amount would come to us if we needed it. And that's why I'm going month to month.
Yeah. Oh, that's so smart. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. Let me ask you one other thing about rent. Again, I'm just trying to understand. The rent, I know, just goes to rental assistance. And if people have a landlord who like isn't paying their utility bill, do you all help with that at all?
Yes, that's where the fuel, which is a misnomer. When we began, we were only paying for fuel, but now we're paying utility. Because many of the houses on the island, as you know, are heated by electricity.
Yeah.
And if they shut off your water, you're in big trouble. So we do oil, propane, electricity, and water.
Gotcha.
I've lost track of what you asked me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I just didn't know if you have a bad landlord, can you all be appealed to?
Yeah,
to help,
and
right?
95% of the rental situations we see, the tenant pays the utilities, including water.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. And then the last thing is really just advertising. I guess everyone just knows who you are, but I know who, I didn't meet you till today, and I'm glad I did. And I just want to know, like, how do you know, how do we all find out there's a need? And do you even have to spend money on that? I hope people just give you advertising for free, but I just wanted to know a little bit how you get that out. Because I know when people hear, oh, like, for example, I was at the paddle courts the other day and someone had mentioned, you all needed money, or that you all needed vegetable oil or something like that. And I was like, well, isn't there a way that we can know about that? Because I know so many people probably show up and, who knows, but again, it could just be a bad rumor. I'm just trying to understand better. I think people want to help even more, even on a lower level than at the high level of the community foundation.
Well, before Brooks' new task force came to being, the food pantry's been around for 30 years, rental assistance for like 15. We get the word out on social media. we are known by every nonprofit organization on the island, all of the doctors' offices, the hospital, you name it. But, you know, some people, we do get advertising, particularly for the fuel assistance from the Inky. The word gets out, word of mouth is pretty good on this island, but you know, there's always gonna, no matter all the advertising you do, there's always gonna be somebody who is missed. But I mean, I guess I would say with the numbers of people we are dealing with, we're catching a fair number.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. I just wanted to see, like, you know, just try to figure out there's more of a grassroots way to reach people.
Right. And we
Yeah.
are, obviously, we are an outreach program of the Interfaith Council, which are all of the churches on the island. So they have their own way of getting the word out.
This is great. Well, thank you so much, Janice, for your time. I appreciate it. And yeah, I like Linda says a lot with some of the groups, I wish you'd ask for more money. And,
Oh, I can do
appreciate
that.
What you're doing.
You could follow the lead of the CPC. And anyway, thank you, Linda, for giving me that line.
Just to make it clear, we cannot follow CPC. We are not allowed to.
I know.
Only the CPC legislation allows us to do that.
Right. We're not allowed to do it. So just to make that clear. So I'm looking over things. I do have a couple of questions. 15% of Nantucket residents, that means you serve close to maybe 3,000 families?
Well, residents are individuals. So, I mean, yeah. Let's see, last year there were 6,927 visits to the pantry.
There were how many?
6,927 visits to the pantry. I mean, we count.
But is that those individuals can come back? I mean, 15% is roughly, looking at what we know to be the vague population of the island. That's about 3,150.
Well, I mean, we use census data. We're not allowed to use a guessing game.
Well, I think that there's enough statistics out there.
Well, I agree, and that's why I think, you know, we.
So this is 15% of 11,000?
It's somewhere in the middle. I mean, I'll check it out for you, but that's been the estimated amount.
Okay, so I'm just sort of asking because I want to know if it's, when I present something to the town and I say 15% of Nantucket residents, and I've been able to show statistically that we have residents above 21,000, that 15% puts me at 3,150 roughly. And so I'm just trying to figure out whether or not, are we 15% of the census, which we all know is not accurate, or are we 15% of what we know as the population? Because that's an awful lot of people, and I'm not denying whether you do it or not. I just, for the information I will provide to the town, I need to know it accurately.
I'll get you an exact figure. That was the last figure we got out of one of the surveys that was done. It's somewhere in the middle. I will find that out for you. You should know that the Greater Boston, we are operating under the aegis of the Greater Boston Food Bank.
Right.
And they only give us credit for census data. We can only get, I mean, it's a fight to the finish getting more than we consistently ask for more than we're entitled to, because they will only use census data.
Okay, so this sentence here about 15% of the Nantucket residents is based on the data available to this by the census, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a little bit, just for my information, that is a little bit different than what our accurate population would be.
Tough to say. I mean, I could.
But could you then tell me, when you say you had 6,917 visits, how many actual families or individuals do you believe that was? Because we have repeats, right?
We don't count that way. We currently have well, as of last year, we had 1,235 households registered with the pantry.
You had how many?
1,233 households registered with the pantry.
I think what Dorothy's asking is unique visits versus repeat.
Yeah, I'd say,
visits.
you know,
And
it's
that's
just
a lot of,
not,
you don't keep that track.
it's not a way we count it. We
Yeah.
count ourselves the way a grocery store counts itself, the way a restaurant counts itself. If you come, you know, if I go to the Stop and Shop, they don't count me as one customer because I go every week. They count me as how many people went into the store, how many people came for food. And if you go to, that's the way this food pantries operate. I don't count that way for rental assistance. I count unique households, whether I pay you once or 12 times. But
Right.
food pantries, and our major accounting goes to them. Food pantries don't count that way. They want to know how many times, who came in this week, how many bags of food you gave this week. And if they come back next week, you fed them again, you're going to count them again.
Okay, no, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
trying to get a good idea when I make a presentation.
But I can tell you that, you know, when I say registered with the pantry, that means they came, they gave us a name, they gave us a number of people in their family. Now, do some people come and not give us complete information? Under our aegis, we're still going to feed them. But that's the number at the end of last year that were registered, the number of people who came in and said, I need help. They gave us the information, the limited information we're allowed to get, and that's the number. So I think that's a number you could use, people registered with us. Now, they could have come once and they could have come 52 times. 52 weeks in the year, yeah, they could have come 52 times. And a majority of them are longer term than just coming once or twice.
Okay, and just to review, Brooke, I'll come back to you when I'm finished asking my questions. And will you just, instead of me going back over this, I'm sorry, raising this at the moment, how many homes did you say that you, in the year, do you believe that you funded for housing, rental assistance?
Last year, these are unique numbers, there were 274 households. And that's a unique number. So you only get counted once.
Right. And this, I noticed that your number on fuel, giving aid and fuel assistance out of your pocket has risen quite a deal, quite a great deal.
It was or was not, I didn't hear you.
I said, I noticed that it has raised quite a bit with
Yeah,
what you're putting outside of the services available for the Salvation Army. And
yeah, when we first started it, we had one small funding source, but we've been able to get additional donations, and we've been able in some of our grant writing to include the utility assistance as well as rental assistance. So, for example, when I ask, when I write a grant to the United Way, I will ask for X amount, X percent, which will now be for utility assistance. So we've been able to slowly up that number.
yeah, it's good. It's a good number to see.
Yeah, because as I said when I started out, I think we are at the point where we're doing as much direct assistance as processing the state program.
Right. So it's actually, it's nice to see that you're able to provide that kind of money to those services. And
this year we did get a nice boost from the Rotary for that purpose. So the Rotary at one point had a fuel assistance program. Bert will know this. And this year, in lieu of my sending stuff to them, they gave us a grant.
And what kind of grant did you get from them for that?
There was a matching grant for all three programs, but a portion of that, because a portion of that came from their fuel assistance program, it had to go to fuel assistance. So I think 10,000 went to fuel assistance, and the remaining 13,000 was split between rents and food. So the total grant they gave us was 23,000, and it was a match. It was, they did a promotional program on on their radio station, and they provided 10 and donations came in at 13.
Wow, good.
And that's going to be that's a one-time thing, but it's here now because now is when we need it.
Right. Significant. Okay.
I'm happy.
Brooke, you had something? No? Okay. Okay, Janice, thank you very much for your time. We will reach out to you about our in-person or more intimate interview with you. Today, you'll get an email from me or Anne, and we'll try to set up a time that that discussion can be done this way. It can be done in person, whatever's most comfortable for you, the whole Interfaith Council as a whole, okay?
Do you think you'll be doing it on site this year?
If you feel comfortable with it, yes. If not, we will do it whatever way you feel comfortable to present it to us. Okay?
Yeah, we'll just need to obviously prepare because of the distancing and all of the stuff you'll have to have on and whatever, but okay.
Correct. And I think what we're looking for is we're going to try to get some of that interviewing done next week. So I'll reach out to you today after our meeting and just see what we can talk,
Okay.
whether it's even just a phone call, okay?
I'm not going anywhere. I'm following the governor's orders. I'm stuck here.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Janice. Thank you for your time. As everybody can notice, Fairwinds has come in on our site. I'm welcoming all of them, and I'll have them introduce themselves as they come through. I will let everybody know, all the members at Fairwinds, that this is a recorded meeting, so that you know that as we start. And I will welcome you, and I'll start with Chris. I'm going to start with you introducing yourself to our board, and then our board will introduce themselves to you.
Great. Chris Gagne, board chair. Most of you know me from previous years. I've been on the board for almost 4 years now, and very positive about the work we've been able to do and what the organization has been able to accomplish over this past year. And I'd like to turn it over to Michael, who is our interim executive director. He's doing a terrific job, and we welcome this meeting and the ability to answer all of your questions.
Fabulous.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, committee members. I'm Michael Kellerman. As Chris mentioned, I'm the interim executive director at Fairwinds since September 1st. And I came to the island after being the CEO of a large behavioral health and child services organization in Philadelphia with about a $15 million budget. I come with sort of change management, executive management, financial management skills. And that experience actually resulted in a merger that I led to form a new organization that's about a $40 million organization in the Philadelphia region. So I'm grateful to be here, and I look forward to this conversation. I'll pass it over to my colleague, Christy.
I'm Christy Wilson. I've met most of you before. I'm the billing director at Fairwinds. Vanessa?
Bill, or okay. I'm Vanessa Park. I'm about to have my 2-year anniversary with Fairwinds, and this is my second town grant experience.
Okay. I'm going to start with Bert.
Oh, Phil?
Okay, Phil Smith.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah.
Phil Smith, I've been on the board for just about a year now. I am the treasurer. I'm sort of an official treasurer. I've been a treasurer for many organizations. I was a treasurer at Tabor Academy for 25 years, a $25 million budget. And I have also was the treasurer of the Yacht Club for 6 years back in the 90s. And I am a resident. Ann and I converted our residency 3 years ago to Nantucket. Ann and I had been coming here since we were kids, and we made the switch. So here I am.
Okay, welcome. Okay, Bert.
Bert Johnson, the representative from the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission.
Brooke.
Hi, Brooke Moore. I'm Chair of Council for Human Services.
John.
John Balash, I'm a member at large.
Linda,
Member at large, Linda Williams.
Jill,
Hi, Jill Veith, and I'm representing the Finance Committee for the town.
Jericho,
That's Jericho Mealy. I am the Director of Human Services.
and Rachel, as everybody saw, was on there, but she had to leave for a union meeting. So she is hopefully will be back, she says, but just so you know, and I'm Dorothy Hertz. I'm the chair. So welcome everybody, and I'm going to put it over to Fairwinds, to you guys, to make your presentation to us, and then we'll ask questions.
Great. So I think I'll start on behalf of Fairwinds and the group that we have with us, Chris, again, our board chair, Phil, our treasurer, Christy, our billing director, and Vanessa, who has done marketing communications and fundraising and grant writing for Fairwinds. They're here to support me as I am relatively new, and I invite anyone to jump in on any question or any answer or whatnot, but I thought I'd take just a few minutes, Dorothy and committee, to sort of give us a brief update on Fairwinds, sort of pivot over to our application that we submitted this year, and then open it up for questions for the remainder of the meeting. Great. Thank you for this. And again, on Zoom meetings, I know sometimes we talk over one another, but if you want to stop me, do so, and I'll be attentive to any question you might have while I sort of give a brief introduction. So as you can tell, Fairwinds is in a period of change. So I am the interim executive director, and bridging from Tess's leadership, long-term leadership of the organization, which ended at the end of August, to the search for a new executive director, which is a search that is underway that the board is coordinating. I'm honored and proud to be here, and I have truly just enjoyed getting to know the Nantucket community through such a deep dive experience, which is kind of how I enjoy doing so. As you can imagine, and as I imagine you're hearing from multiple organizations that are speaking with you, the arrival and the pesky stay of COVID has had a deep impact on what we do as an agency. We did make a very fast transition and responded to the ongoing demand for services by providing telehealth services. So we are a 100% remote agency for the most part at this point, and we have continued to be able to meet the growing demand for outpatient therapy and those services that are thriving in a telehealth environment where others aren't. With regard to some of the community-facing work that we do, some of the work that we do in homes, in community centers, in schools, we've seen a sharp decline in demand or even the possibility of providing those services due to the sort of school closures, fear factors, and other factors in the community. So in a short year, the spectrum of services we're providing has shifted significantly and is now primarily outpatient, though we don't expect that to continue to be the case as we hopefully move away from the pandemic in the future. And let me use the CBHI program as an example, because we'll talk a little bit about our financial model. This was a program that was a very robust program in the pre-COVID days, certainly helped us balance the books and cover some of the gaps that our mission naturally creates. And that program has nearly dried up in this environment. And so not only has our service model been disrupted, but our financial model has been disrupted by that. And we're grateful that there have been areas where we have been able to draw down government and private support to cover some of those gaps. So a reminder of our core mission at Mcfairwinds, partially a reminder for me because I wake up every day thinking about it, has been for 60 years to serve the behavioral health and substance misuse needs of the Nantucket community, regardless of ability to pay, insurance status, or other barriers. And that forms the sort of the core of what we propose this year to the town to support. By nature, our business model, based on what I just said, creates a significant gap in funding, and we've built an organization over time. Again, it's an honor to be able to say we, but I have to credit that to the many thousands that came before me by creating a business model that has multiple prongs. First of all, a sophisticated billing, medical records management, and clinical standards management program that allows us to really take a look at what we do to make sure that we're doing it in a cost-effective manner, and frankly, to draw down every available dollar that can offset any other dollars to support the services that we do. A recent change that has happened probably since we last met with the town is the onboarding of a project called Green Space, Database, which is a data collection module that helps us assess the effectiveness of our treatment amongst multiple programs, not just at the end of treatment, but at the beginning, throughout, and after, so that we can really respond to the needs. So growing areas of sophistication that certainly attracted me to take this position. I do want to harken back a bit to the financial engineering work that was done over the course of 2 years. I'm grateful I didn't have to do it, but it was done, and I think has really landed Fairwinds in a much better place when it comes to support from a financial crew. We have a really talented CFO, consultant, and HR back-end services that really help us continue to run the organization from Nantucket as well. And then Christy and her team, not only in building a robust billing and accounts management process, but a front desk administrative team that offers a human touch to anyone who needs help in a professional manner. And then just one last thing there is there's been increased attention. This is something that I've been enjoying participating in, to investment policies and investment actions on the part of our investment committee, which has become a much more, I think, thorough and regularly meeting group that manages the funds that we do have at Fairwinds. These actions has again fortunately resulted in a series of very clean audits that we're proud of, and we were recently promoted from gold to platinum on GuideStar, which was a nice thing to see right before the holidays. So that's just one of many ways that that recognizes the work we're doing to further tighten up the belt and do good work in a clean way. So as I mentioned, our business model by nature creates a loss. We serve people that can't pay or can't pay in full for the services we provide, which are very expensive services to provide. And so if we were creating that business model today and promoting it to you as an idea, you might think that's crazy. But over 60 years, there has been a revenue model that has driven us to be able to continue to do that. One of the largest contributors to that is the second shop, the shop that allows us to use unrestricted capital to cover some of the gaps and losses. There's, of course, philanthropy as well, which is alive and well in Nantucket, and we are very grateful that we are supported by the community from both private and individual sources. But by far the hardest area to fund that over time has been not only the core of our mission, but that which we have not been able to fund other than through our main and most important partnership, which is with the town through this grant, has been for sliding fee scale services. And again, as the core of our mission, I'll continue to come back to that the ability to take someone that walks in the door, regardless of their ability to compensate or their insurance status, is, if boiled down to it, what we're here for in many ways. So a few words about our application for $176,323. I want to be humble and acknowledge some of the errors that you might have caught or you might not have caught. So first one is in our answer about threatening or pending litigation, our answer was to mention that's not something that we would put in writing. I am here to disclose to you that there is no pending or threatening litigation against Fairwinds at this time.
Thank you.
Sorry that it was something that carried forward that was a tradition, and we just want to make sure that we're cautious about how we discuss that. The second was we attached the wrong 990. This was brought to our attention yesterday as we were sort of doing a final review, and I'm sorry that I did not catch that. We provided you the fiscal year 2018 990 as opposed to the 2019 one, and we have that and can get that to the committee immediately following this meeting. So apologies on that, and I hope that didn't put the committee in a bad position. The fiscal year 2020 990 is still in process, and we don't have that in hand. To the 990 that we uploaded an error. There was an error in that 990 that you may not have caught, but that indicated that of our 9 board members, 0 of them were independent. That was just an error. It's not something we can go back and correct because it's a document set in stone, but I just wanted to make sure if anyone was concerned that all of our board members are independent. That was simply a documentation error. And then finally, you might have noticed that we introduced color to our submission through the bylaws. There were yellow sections. Those bylaws were recently changed and updated, and the yellow sections that were highlighted were simply the changes that were made. So you are seeing the current and accurate bylaws for the organization, just with some unexpected color. So apologies for those errors. And again, if you have any further questions or concerns about what's there, I'm assuming they'll come up in the questions about the application. So a final minute or two from me. What have we submitted application for this year? I will describe what we've submitted application for in very brief, as well as what we have not submitted application for, to make sure that we have continuity from previous applications. First is that core need that the town has been our hero on, and that is sliding fee scale gap coverage. So in short, if a client doesn't have insurance, or if they do and their insurance doesn't cover the services we provide, which is very frequent, beyond what they can pay, if they are able to pay, that gap is covered by sliding fee scale. And you'll see that's the majority of the funding that we're requesting, and that has been the gap that, again, has been the hardest for us to find additional or separate funding for, and that which the town has funded for many years. The second, which we addressed as a new ask, regards our psychiatry services. So we do employ the only triple board certified psychiatrist serving the island, and we have consistently had significant unmet demand for services. And so while the grant application said we are increasing from 16 to 32 hours, we are already doing that. We were already moving in that direction by adding hours to Dr. Dominic Maxwell's schedule. And what we decided to do in order to carry out that mission of being there for anyone who comes across the transom at Fairwinds is to increase his contracted hours to 32 hours starting January 1st, 5 days ago. So for those services, we introduced this concept of downward sloping reimbursement. So if we have a client who has insurance and they're in network with us, we have a contract and a contracted rate to provide that services. Beyond what the insurance pays for that service and what other copay there might be to the client, think of the remaining gap as the downward sloping reimbursement. It's not covered by sliding fee scale, and it's what we write off to insurance. I wanted to take a moment on that because when you look at the gap at Fairwinds in our business model, about less than 20% of our clients are sliding fee scale clients. So the gap that we're talking about when we talk about sliding fee scale is the smaller part of the true gap that we see at the organization, which comes through insurance write-offs. When we have someone who is insured who sees us, there is a gap between what we're able to earn on that point of service and what it costs the agency to provide, and we write off that gap. That is not what we're asking for in the sliding fee scale. That is a separate and much larger bucket of gap that is mainly covered through the second shop, philanthropy, and other sources. But what we're asking for in psychiatry, because to meet the demand on the island, we are increasing services, and those services come at a net loss based on the cost of providing psychiatry services, is we are asking for the town to help pay the portion of psychiatry services that are uncovered through sliding fee scale or for insurance. So it is that downward sloping reimbursement cost for psychiatry services that you will see as part of the ask to the town. And the reason we're doing that is because we don't want to be able to have to turn people away from service. There's a reason that people don't, or agencies hesitate to provide lots of psychiatry services, and that's because it's extremely expensive and very few insurance companies come close to underwriting the costs. And in the costs that we're asking the town to cover in this grant, we're not including overhead. We're not including training, travel, supervision, no shows, cancellations, these type of things. So I wanted to be clear about how those two things distinguish, because I still do, but I know that we often, when we look at our financials, there's confusion between sliding fee scale and insurance write-offs, downward sloping reimbursement. So I hope that you'll have some good questions on that, but I wanted to sort of throw that out there. And then the third part of our ask is which is the smallest part, is for translation services. We saw that indicated in the call for grants, and this is a critical way that we're able to say that we can provide services without regardless of boundary. And in Nantucket, there are multiple languages that we access translation services in order to be able to provide those services. And so we think that's a very important part of how that attaches to our mission, even if it's just a small projected number for what we would do on an annualized basis. So what we haven't applied for, you'll see that we haven't applied for the Mentoring Youth program. And if you recall, and if you don't, I'm not sure how many people were around for that. The Mentoring Youth program at Fairwinds was closed last fiscal year and has not operated in this current fiscal year, and we don't anticipate it operating in the future. We can talk a little bit more about that, as several core parts of that program were transferred back to the schools, who are probably what we felt were the best to operate those programs ongoing, and then several that we were trying to build up on the mentoring side that hadn't really sort of taken off, or we were having trouble recruiting mentors for were discontinued. So I thought it was important to acknowledge that. And again, I hope if there are questions about that, we're happy to take them. And then the second one that was not in our application this year was for what we call our urgent behavioral health clinic. So that Monday through Friday, right now it's 1 day a week and it's remote, but same day appointments for those in crisis or those that need urgently to speak to someone, even if just to route to other services that we provide or that other agencies provide. This is part of our social safety net. And in this last fiscal year, or in this current fiscal year, we were able to achieve full funding from another source through a government grant that helps us underwrite those costs, which is why we didn't include it in our most recent invoice against the town grant. And we have high hopes that we'll be able to sustain that funding into next fiscal year, which is what we're talking about here. So we do not have a grant to cover that for next year, but we're hopeful to the extent that we did not include that in the funding. And we wanted to really keep focused on those three core elements: sliding fee scale, psychiatry expansion, and translation services, that we see forming the core of that mission to serve those regardless of ability to pay or insurance status. So hopefully that was helpful in sort of just lining up where we are and what we put down on paper and why. But I will pause there, see if any of my colleagues from Fairwinds have anything to add or anything that they want to make sure is tacked on to my introduction. Otherwise, I will mute and pause for questions from the group.
I just wanted to just be clear. I think you misspoke just I know you know this, but we do UBHC 5 days a week. And I think, Michael, you might have said 1 day. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, Monday through
It's
Friday.
One slot a day, but we do offer same day appointments, much like the walk-in clinic at the hospital kind of thing.
Thanks, Chrissy. That program has changed in the last several years. So thanks for clarifying that.
Okay. Does anybody on your board have anything they want to add to Michael's presentation? Chris, anything?
No, I think you know, it's a big application, and you know, we only have an hour, and I just want to make sure you have ample opportunity to ask questions about it and anything else that's going on at the agency. So please go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna just ask, make sure that, Phil, do you have something? I would love to hear from anybody on your end before we start discussion on our end.
I was just saying, I spoke with our auditor this morning on a couple of points, and just to confirm, we are wrapping up our audit for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, and things went pretty smoothly. That's not always the case, and there's one last piece of thing that we need to get back to him on, and then he's ready to wrap it up. So once that's done, then we'll have the updated 990 and the other forms that are associated with that.
Okay, great. Vanessa, do you have anything you want to add?
No, Michael did a beautiful job. I think that's the best explanation of the difference between downward sloping reimbursement and sliding fee I've ever heard. So
well, that's very good.
But you still may have questions. You may still have questions about it, and that's absolutely fine. But I think we're good.
It was well done. Christy, do you have anything you want to add?
I just want to say that we really, truly do value so much the support we get from the town, and we do rely on it so heavily, and so does so many members of our community. And I just want to thank Michael and our board and all the people that help us provide that care. And thank you.
Sweet. Okay, I'm going to open up then for discussion on our board side. Okay. Brooke, I'm going to start with you.
There we go. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all. Some of you I know, Vanessa. and everyone else is new to me. So my passion area is access for folks for whom English is not their primary language. So I'd love to get a little more color on where the translation services break down and what types of services you're using. I guess through the intake process, the therapeutic process, and even through sort of billing and all of that, like how many of your clinicians are multilingual versus using sort of offsite phone or video interpreter services?
I will take that. We do have a full-time clinician, Michelle Meckler, that's been with us for about 10 years, who's very fluent in Spanish. And we have a part-time clinician who also speaks Spanish, and she can speak Portuguese. She wouldn't say that she's maybe fluent, but she can certainly speak the language. And we use Seracom, which is a phone contract that we have with an agency where we just dial in, put in our PIN, and we can speak at any time in virtually any language. And that is quite an expensive service, but we use it all the time. Our front desk uses it when people call. If we also have one of our full-time front office administrators is Spanish speaking. So we do have much more so Spanish than any other language, but a little bit of Portuguese. And then we have pretty much any language available to us through the program of Seracom on the phone.
Great, thanks. At some point, I'd be curious about rates because I'm working on this for other organizations too.
Well, that, just to give you an idea, the amount that we put is the amount that is just for Seracom. That doesn't include anything, obviously, for staff that already speak the language. But
okay,
so that's. But we could be happy to tell you how much service that was that cost that much.
Okay, great, thank you. Really, that's only the question. I'm pretty familiar with Fairwinds, so thanks, everybody.
John Balash.
Well, I must say that was Michael Kellerman gave me one of the clearest explanations of what you're looking for and what you're not looking for that I have experienced in my more than 10 years on this committee. And I compliment you on being able to make it clear for us that some of the questions that have plagued us in the past seem to be at least explainable, if not completely met.
Thank you, John.
I have nothing more to say.
Okay. Where's Bert? Oh, Bert's not here anymore. Huh. Sorry, I didn't notice that Bert left me. Jill V.
Hi. Yes, it was really helpful. I appreciate it. Can you just repeat for me? I learned through repetition probably better than anything. Maybe Michael can help me. What is your deficit per day? Because I know it said you went from 16 to 32 hours a month is kind of what you're looking to double the number of hours. And what is the deficit per day? Because you talk about a $1,400 deficit and then the $400 deficit. And I wasn't quite sure what we're supposed, what we're being asked to cover.
Sure. Just pulling up my notes on this. And Christy, I may ask you to help jump in a little bit on this too. But in our grant application, especially in the numbers narrative, you see, so what we based that on was what we're projecting for the next fiscal year, which is the fiscal year this would cover. So this year we may have started at say 20 or 21 hours a week and are moving up to where we are now, where we have Dr. Maxwell at 32 hours a week. But for the full fiscal year we're applying for, we're assuming 32 standard hours a month of psychiatry services. And so when we broke it down to a day, obviously these aren't 100% exact numbers, but these are as close as it came to allowing us to make a pretty good argument that psychiatry costs the agency $2,400 for an 8-hour day. Christy, is there anything else you'd want to say about that specific fact?
I don't see her on the screen. She may have dropped.
Who, Jill?
Christy.
Oh, no, yeah, I just see her photo.
Yeah.
She's here.
She's coming back.
It's just-
She's coming
I'm
back.
having some technical difficulties. So yes, the actual salary that we pay Dr. Maxwell is $2,400 a day. And of that, we expect to get back about 14 in insurance. So that delta is $1,000 a day.
So, but here it jumped down, it said it translates to $400 in SFS funds offset by town grant dollars. So I didn't understand if we're covering the 1,000 or.
So it's a very good point. I'm going to lean on Christy again here, but one of the things we attempted to do, and we're hopeful that it was clear, but it is tricky, is we want to make sure there's no double dipping in our numbers. And so we made sure to extract sliding fee scale funds associated with psychiatry services from our costs so that we weren't double covering those. So when the step down from 24 to 1,000, that's pretty clear, right? That's our average coverage that insurance will cover. Correct, Christy? Which leaves a gap of $1,000. So within that gap of $1,000, what we're attempting to do here is to describe which portion would be covered by sliding fee services and which portion would be remaining that was uncovered, which is what we're asking additionally from the town. Christy, am I correct?
Yes, so I took the average of multiple days and how many sliding fee scale clients we see, because the town is generous and pays us the full ask, which is we actually charge what we pay our clinic, what we pay Dr. Maxwell exactly. What he charges us is what we charge. And the town already pays that full amount. There is no downward sloping reimbursement. That's paid. So we don't want to ask you to pay that again. So we take that out. So that's why there's a subtracted number. We really wanted to do our due diligence to make sure that we weren't counting that twice, even though it makes it really complicated to maybe understand.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand what's the dollar amount that we're covering, because you also have $600 a day.
It's just
I'm
the
sorry,
600.
I'm new. I'm so sorry because I'm new.
No, it's totally, it is a very great question. I'm glad you asked. It's just the 600 a day because we're subtracting out the 400 that the town would on average pay in full, and we wouldn't lose any of the money because we didn't bill insurance and get less back. And again, this is just covering his salary.
Okay, so the town's covering the $400 a day or the 600?
The town is actually covering 400 under the sliding fee grant. And the 600 is what we are just losing, just trying to pay our doctor every time he comes to the island.
Okay, all right.
So that's an example of sorry to interrupt, that's an example of the importance of in the difference between sliding fee and downward sloping. So because we're asking for psychiatry as a separate line item, and the 400 is what is already covered as sliding fee for Dominic Maxwell, correct me if I'm wrong or whatever, Christy, but the 600 is what we're asking for in addition to robustly help us with the psychiatry.
Yeah,
so 400 sliding fee, 600 downward sloping reimbursement.
Yes, we just want to ask the town to help us cover his salary when the insurance companies don't pay us enough to cover what we pay him, which is why we subtract out sliding fee clients from that, because that ask is already in our sliding fee ask.
And let me add that
not double dipping.
Yeah, and let me add that so this downward sloping reimbursement, the insurance write-off component of Fairwinds, is huge on the in terms of the services we provide, and is not included in our ask for sliding fee scale for other services. But here we are asking for that to be covered simply for psychiatry services because A, the demand is so significant, B, the costs are so high, and C, it folds into that our ability. I mean, we took the step as an agency to increase our commitment and are asking the town to help pay for that.
And that's the $600.
Yes.
Did that answer your question, Jill? Or are you still a little?
I guess I'm just confused about the $400 then. Is that the town pays that too? So the town's covering $1,000 a day total?
400 under the sliding fee portion of the grant, 600 under the psychiatry portion of the grant, if we're, in this ask.
I think it's easy to see it when you think of it from a client.
Well, Michael, can I just see if I can clear?
Yeah,
this?
please do.
Jill, I think what I'm getting from this, and if I'm incorrect, they can correct me, is that we've always paid for we've always helped with the sliding fee, which goes to the everyday counseling that might go on. And then they're asking for the additional funding to help them with the psychiatric portion of the doctor coming in, which is I think they're two different entities. Am I correct or not?
Well, the sliding fee covers all of our services when they're
Right.
not covered by insurance or a client's ability to pay based on their lack of insurance or their insurance coverage. So in that sliding fee ask is encompassed in that is money for psychiatry. So when I present, Rachel just joined us, so she can.
Yeah, she's back. Hi,
Okay.
Rachel.
So when I send a report to the town, I say, this is how much sliding fee we used for outpatient therapy. This is how much we used for psychological testing. This is how much we used for community support provider. This is how much we used for peer recovery. This is how much we used for medication management. We wanted to take out that chunk that we use for medication management as best we could by averages of use and only ask for what we are paying our doctor to come to the island and what we have to pay him, and insurance doesn't pay it because the town pays that whole $300 an hour, very generously so, out of that sliding fee money. The insurance companies, by far and large, do not. That's what we're facing as an agency, is trying to bring this doctor here to help cover the needs of our community members for psychiatric care, which is desperately needed. And just to pay him, we take a loss. Just to pay him, not to mention anything else, just to pay him, we take a loss of the $600 a day. And as an agency, that's a lot to try and absorb when you're not even factoring in all the other things that Michael mentioned.
Yeah, so the distinguishing factor there has to do with whether insurance is involved or not. And if you think of it from the client level, we are introducing an ask for funding insurance gap for the first time, at least recently, and are not doing so for other services. We're singling out psychiatry, not only because the total to the agency would be many hundreds of thousands of dollars for all services, but because we feel it is a significant win for the island that we are able to not only retain but increase coverage of the only triple board certified psychiatrist providing services on the island. That was a real win that was fortunate that we took and ran with when we had the opportunity.
Yeah, and the 400 was already cut. If we don't run out of sliding fee scale money, that 400 is already covered in that ask. So the 600 a day is what we're asking for psychiatric care to help us, like I said, just pay Dr. Dominic Maxwell to treat our community members. That's the loss, just to pay him every day.
And Jill, this is about 1/10 of the questions I asked about 2 months ago when I started to try and learn this thing. So
No, it's fine. I understand psychiatry is very expensive. So I guess on that, then can you tell me for how many people, if it's 32 hours a month, then are you seeing twice that many people? Because everyone's got a 30-minute session. Is that how that works?
It generally works that way. However, when he sees someone for the first time, he will see them for an hour. And there are some instances where the way that our model is, the way we're working hard to fashion our model is so that we know there's only one of him and we don't anticipate that changing. So we don't want people to come in and stay. We want people to come in, become what we call medication stable, and then transition to a lower level of care, whether that be Dr. Diane Kasha, who is a pediatrician on our staff, And we're not asking for anything to cover her. She does not charge as much as he does, so just make that clear. And, or back to their primary care doctor. So, and then we'll be collaborating with these primary care doctors as closely as need be. And if they need to kind of come back in for a transition, change in their medication and go back, that's what we'll be focusing on. But in that, we are really trying very hard to keep those appointments as the most complex 30-minute sessions that we can. But sometimes when people are transitioning out, they may have a 15-minute session. So mostly, generally, to answer your question, yes, they're 30-minute sessions, except for intakes or someone that might be transitioning out.
Okay. So
And you know, sorry, go
comes
ahead.
down to about 64 people or 60 people a month.
Yes, and sometimes we also have 15-minute sessions because he may have other things that he has to do. So if he's seeing sort of an older adolescent, he may need to call a parent, or he may need to also spend time doing prior authorizations, which is something when essentially the insurance company says, we don't think they need that medication. And he has to spend 20 minutes of his day saying, yes, they do.
Right.
So that's not billable time. So we've been, and the client can't be there for that. But those kinds of things are all why he might bill a 15-minute session.
I gotcha.
And
Okay.
Jill, I wanted to add one thing to what Christy said, because one of the initiatives that Dr. Maxwell, along with our clinical director, Amanda Wright, have really taken on, and the door has been way open to it, to us from Nantucket Cottage Hospital, is to deepen our connection with those PCPs, with those primary care providers, so that we can make the most effective and timely transition back when it's not necessary for that client to continue to see Dr. Maxwell and should be back in the care of their primary care physician. So that's one of our growth goals for this year, is to see that be a better, more seamless partnership. And there seems to be great receptivity from the PCPs, at least at the hospital.
And we have been doing that for quite some time, and we even have in our client consent that is our plan. That is what we are trying to achieve, is medication stability such that they will be transitioned to a lower level of care, because we know he's in such high demand, and we have to get these critically mentally ill people to be seen as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay. All right. Well, I think I understand a little bit better. And thank you so much. Thanks for your time, Michael and Christy. Appreciate it.
Hey, Bert, welcome back.
I don't know what happened. Xfinity must not like me today. I started to get a notice on my screen that said your internet is wavering, and then it went black.
Oh, so you missed the whole presentation.
Well, not all of it. The executive director was speaking, and then all of a sudden he froze on my screen.
Okay, so in reading over their application, Bert, did you have questions you wanted to present to the board?
No, I don't have any, since I used to be on that board 20 years ago.
Okay.
But I had one question. Are they interacting with Gosnell, or did they interact with Gosnell at all before Gosnell left?
Well, we haven't been told officially that they have left. So let's,
yeah. So I can, Bert, I can say that we keep very close contact with Gosnold. I know that Nancy is no longer with them, but Amanda and I were talking to Nancy pretty regularly, just to touch base, just because sometimes you don't know, regardless of what program you have or don't have, you don't know who's going to pick up the phone and call their agency, call our agency. And on the crisis side, Amanda keeps in close contact with the person that leads their crisis contract as well, because again, oftentimes it's our clients or there are calls that come in through our switchboard that are routed over to Gosnell to provide that service. So, we have questions as to what direction they're going in, but certainly see them as part of the infrastructure that we collaborate with pretty daily.
Are they still open? I mean, do you still talk to them?
I actually believe Amanda's talking to Christy. What's the name of the gentleman who runs Jeff? No, who runs Crisis? Or Vanessa, you might know.
Brian,
thank you. Yeah. So I believe they're actually talking today. They typically have a standing monthly to just talk about what's happening on the island and on the community, in the community. And I expect that we'll have some context from that conversation.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Linda, do you have any questions?
Absolutely no questions. As you know, I'm a big champion of Fairwinds. And I think your upfront explanation was phenomenal, Michael. And I'm glad we're moving forward and you've got a good handle on this. And my only question for you is, what's the chance of you staying instead of being interim?
It's a good question.
This is not Philadelphia.
This is true. I've definitely been charmed by Nantucket, but I plead the fifth on that question.
Are you here all the time? Or are you working from Philadelphia?
So I've been on island since September, and today I'm working from Philadelphia because we had some unfortunate issues with the home that we have here, but we're back on island starting this weekend.
Okay, I just to bug you about staying.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Michael, from the reaction of your board, it looks like maybe they've asked the same thing. Chris is pleading the fifth. So Michael, I'm going to make a couple of comments. First and foremost, I am going to wait until I get the updated financials to come back to you guys with your financial questions, because that was one of mine.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Have it. So when I get that, I would love to be able to go over it and then come back to you with those questions. Okay.
That's fair. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. And then I do have a couple of questions. If you could just maybe explain to me. First of all, great income coming in from your thrift store sales. Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yes.
Yeah, I am really impressed. You do pay an awful lot in rent, and that's too bad, you know. But
We do. We were gracious to get some philanthropic support that was COVID related, though, to underwrite the cost of rent, given that the revenue's down. Now that the store is doing well against their lowered revenue goals, like in COVID, we're actually quite astonished by how well they're managing to bring in revenue, but it is significantly down over previous time. And so we're hopeful there may be additional grants to support that. But that's a very good question. I've never dug into the question of strategies for lowering that rent. I'm sure others have.
yeah, it's you pay an awful lot in rent, you know, but it's unbelievable the amount of money that you actually are able to bring in through that entity to help support you. Could you explain to me what are CAM charges? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's a great question. So I know that we just had a reduction in them, but I believe they have to do with care and maintenance of areas surrounding the building. But if anyone else knows that from the Mcfairwinds crew, I had to approve a payment for that, but I am not as adept at answering that question. If I don't want to put anyone on the spot, so that could be a question we get back to you on the definition of, but I believe it's a maintenance charge associated with the property.
CAM charges are, because you also have a maintenance charge that you do maintenance, maybe 16,000 or something. So I'm just wondering if you could define those two for me.
Sure. And what I believe is the CAM charge is the automatic payment for maintaining grounds and those things associated with the property. And then the additional costs you were just talking about would be what we would budget to do renovations, internal fixes, things that we're responsible for through our lease. But again, if I can mark that down as one to clarify as I send you the additional documents, I'll do that.
Yeah,
As it's explained to me when I asked it, it's almost like a condominium, the general, overall expenses that they whack up between the tenants. And you're still a tenant, you're paying rent, but you're paying for something that's much more than just your square footage.
So the CAM expenses are with the rental property that you use for the thrift shop, correct?
Yes.
That's correct. So you'd add that to rent to say what's the full
But
liability.
it's not something that varies, by month depending on repairs or anything. It's just sort of like common charges that the landlord has whacked up among the tenants.
Okay. And the 16,000 has to do with maintenance at that building. I think I just got a text message telling me that, oh no, sorry. Yes, I think that somebody is having to leave the meeting. Jericho. So Jericho having to say goodbye to all of us.
Bye, Jericho.
Apologies, I didn't want to interrupt there, but I have to head to another meeting. Thank you very much. This has been an extremely insightful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dorothy, we'll get back to you on that. there is part of this financial engineering exercise over the last 2 years was spreading expenses into different categories and different so-called profit centers. And I think that's part of what you're looking at, but we'll get back to you with the specifics. And we probably will have an updated number, with obviously with the 2020 fiscal numbers.
Yeah, and one of the things I'll say from an anecdotal, since we're on the second shop, is one of the costs you might not think about that comes with running that store has to do with hauling garbage to the dump. So with the closure of what was it called? Take it or leave it at the dump. And the fact that when we're full year round at the second shop, and so some of the other thrift or thrift oriented stores are seasonal. A lot of community members bring things that wind up just being hauled over to the dump, and so I want to look at those charges and make sure where we're coding them, so I can accurately answer what's in CAM charges, what's in our budget for maintenance, and how that gets spent over the year.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I've noticed that you have had a significant amount of advertising going on for therapeutic health. And I'm wondering if have you been able to fill those gaps, or those people that have left? How are you seeing that affecting the services that you're being able to provide at the moment?
Absolutely. So one of the ongoing challenges that Fairwinds sees, I know we're not alone in seeing this, but it has been one of the great challenges for Fairwinds on a cyclical basis, is the recruitment, retention of skilled clinical team members. So we have one natural thing we can't change, which is that Nantucket is 30 miles off the coast. We have another thing we can't change, which is that sometimes the pull toward private practice for a seasoned clinician or a licensed clinician at a certain part of their career is a natural pull, and we see people moving in that direction. That's something that we wrap our heads around by trying to be proactive and saying we want to be the place where people come, train, and build their career. We want to attract the best potential clinicians to start and build their career at Fairwinds, and we understand that there's a natural attrition that comes along with that. But I should also say that the retention part of especially in a non remote environment is really difficult. We've had success in attracting clinicians who make the commitment to come to Nantucket and plant roots here. It's just that those roots sometimes are shallower than we expect. And so we, as a course of my work as interim, one of the three main areas that we're focusing in on is how can we increase retention, and how can we attract people that stay, and what do we need to do with our business model to take a look at how we might compete in a market where, one of the things about telehealth that isn't often spoken about is how it has made competition for talent a much more difficult prospect, because people can be wherever they need to be with the right licensure and provide services from afar. And that has led to a scramble amongst agencies to increase pay, increase benefits, and we want to be at least along for, if not in front of that pack. But in this winter season, we saw that same cycle happen. We've had several people that have left in the last several months. We are successfully hiring new people to fill those gaps, but we would very much like to move in the direction of finding some way to crack at that cycle, because it's been many years of achieving stability, losing stability, achieving stability on the staffing side. And once you remove some of the obstacles we can't do anything about, I think there are real tools that we can use to make Fairwinds a really great place that people want to build their careers at. And I think some people do. I think we achieved that, and you can see that in the tenure of some of our staff, but it's clear that others have other options that they commit to. So you're speaking to one of the things I think about every day. And I know that we all feel the pain when we go from being able to serve every client to maybe having to move into a waiting list or assigning people at less than regular times, and all the different types of things we do to try and keep ourselves from operating on any significant waiting list.
What is your waiting list right now?
So we just successfully onboarded a new part-time clinician, and so we anticipate our waiting list is going to drop down into the range of 10 to 15. Currently, we're in the 20 to 25 range.
Okay, okay, great. And I did have another question, but I totally forgot it, Michael.
That happens.
It
Brooke?
does happen. It happens to me quite a bit. But I will think about it. I'm going to let Brooke speak. I do know that we are close to having the Cottage Hospital ready to come on. And after I let Brooke speak, I will want to set up another time to speak to you once we get the true financials in. Okay. So Brooke, you have a question?
Yeah, hi. First of all, I just want to express my appreciation for the focus on psychiatry services. I know how scarce they are in the nation, and to have someone that can treat kids here on Nantucket is a remarkable achievement, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And then the other thing is, at some point, I'd also just like to talk to you about how much housing plays into your staff retention issues, because I'm in the Affordable Housing Trust. So I'd love to have a conversation with you guys about that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know
Not now. We don't need to do it.
my other question was, Chris, how are you guys moving on your capital fund as to if you have to move your office?
So we have a capital fund, which currently totals about $400,000. And we have other operating reserves as well. So fiscally, I think we're very stable and sustainable. We do have a lease with the Cottage Hospital with our current premises. It's a 2-year lease with a 2-year renew. And I believe, Michael, isn't that coming up in May for the renew?
Yes, it's if we renew an automatic 2-year.
Yeah. You know, the tenor of the conversations with the hospital has been consistently constructive, you know, ever since they agreed to give us the lease, which I know you all have flagged that as an issue over time, and we're very happy to have this. You know, the lease is, I think we pay $1 a year for it. You know, it's free rent, and the hospital is very supportive. And you know, Gary Shaw is obviously very new there, and they're working on a lot of different things, a lot of different plans. But we would expect to be part of those plans in terms of being able to, you know, be fairly closely linked with the hospital, either where we are today, or if they build new buildings, be able to participate in that kind of thing. So, you know, there's nothing definite here at all, but we do think that having strong behavioral health is very consistent with their mission, and having it close by the hospital itself makes a tremendous amount of sense for everyone and the community.
Okay, thanks. A lot of my questions are really going to depend on financials that I get. So I will look forward to receiving those from you. Michael, on my behalf, I would tell you that that was one of the nicest presentations Fairwinds has presented to us in a very long time. It was
thank you.
It was very articulate. Christy, again, always wonderful to see you, and I appreciate all the work that you do and put into making Fairwinds function the way it does.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Vanessa, you too. Thank you for a great grant. Chris, thanks for being here. Paul, thank you for being here, everybody. We look forward to being able to ask those questions as I get the information in, okay?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for that.
Dorothy, regarding the financials, is there anything in particular that we should be aware of when we pull them all together to get them to you? Is there something that you particularly would like to, you know, understand deeper?
To be honest with you, until I see them, I won't answer that. But once I see them, I will write back as fast as possible to whoever sends them to me, so that you can get that information before we have another meeting. And if that information is needed for the board members, it is passed out.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Awesome.
And I just wanted to echo what Christy said earlier. You know, thank you all for your support. The town has supported this agency every year forever, and it's to help our neediest population, and it makes a big difference. And I know you guys are all volunteers and spend a lot of time and effort looking at all the needs on the island, and we appreciate what you do very much. Thank you.
Hey, Chris, I think that's kudos back to you. I understand that you have really been at the helm of this and made a major difference for Fairwinds in its presentation to our community and in the direction that it has taken. So hats off to what you've done. It's a pleasure working with you guys. So,
Well, thank you, but we've got a great staff and a great board, and everybody pitches in, and it's a lot of fun.
yeah, and you have a great board behind you, which is really impressive.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everybody,
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
take care.
The Cottage Hospital will be coming in. I just lost. Who did I lose? Oh, I didn't lose anybody. We're there. It's just the screen got so much smaller.
You just lost them.
I just wanted to, this is Cheryl Rhodes. I just wanted to you all to know that you had let me in the room.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we can tell that you're there.
Okay.
Brooke, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a conflict at noon, so I'm going to have to pop off. I think I'll just go before they start since I won't be able to hear much of it anyway. So, but I will go back and watch it on the recording. Yeah.
Yeah, the previous one went long because I was supposed to be out of here at noon because I have another Zoom meeting shortly. So let's try to keep to the time.
Okay, I think we'll do.
Is that gonna botch our quorum?
Well, if Linda
No.
leaves, we don't have a quorum.
I'll hang in here for a little bit.
Okay, thanks, Linda. All right.
Bye, Brooke. I'm gonna use myself for 1 minute. Okay.
I'm stepping off. I have to go do a quick tour of a building real quick. Who from the hospital is attending? Is it just Sarah?
There's actually Sarah and Elvis Turbio should both be in the waiting room.
Okay.
I'll make sure that they're.
I'm gonna leave for 1 second for like 2 minutes.
All right, the host has to let them in, whoever the host is.
The host
It would be Ann.
That'd be me, but I don't see their names on the waiting list.
Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, we've all been here for a bit. Just a second. Okay. Trying to tell both of them that you're ready.
Hi, sorry.
There's Sarah. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Sarah. Welcome.
Hi, Dorothy. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah. Hi, Cheryl. Sorry.
Hi.
We just lost one of our board members left. She had a previous appointment or commitment at noon. I would reiterate with the board, it would be good to know when we start our meetings, who might have to leave. So, but we're sorry.
Nobody knew it was going to run past 12 o'clock because we usually don't.
Well, we run till 12:30 and we have it till 12:30. So
I'll hang in here till 12:30, but not past that.
yeah, well, we can't. We have to be off by 12:30. So I'm going to have you guys start. We did have Rachel and Jericho here earlier. Rachel had to leave to do a tour of the building for somebody, and Jericho had another commitment. Okay. So Cheryl and Sarah, I'm going to allow you to make your presentations to us, please, and then we'll go into the questioning mode. Okay.
Of course, that would be a pleasure.
Just so you know that you are being recorded at this moment. Okay.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you all so much for having us and taking the time to hear our presentations. It's lovely to see and hear all of you, albeit in this new format. So we are applying for funding for services that support the community here at Nantucket Cottage Hospital. It is a combination of services that involves both the reimbursement for the patients of behavioral health transport to off-island mental health facilities, which are transports that are not reimbursable by the patient's health insurance at this time, but are required for us to absorb the cost, as well as the services that our social services department provides through a combination of myself as the social worker, as well as now our second social worker, social services coordinator, and the certified application counselors for Mass Health and Health Connector enrollments. So a couple things that I wanted to highlight from our application based on feedback that we received from this committee last time. I wanted to mention that we did hear the feedback about our staffing pattern and really think thoughtfully about what was the best way for us to serve the community need, both kind of in recognition of how COVID is likely going to create a surge in behavioral health need, as well as resource need here on the island. And to that end, we have grown our department quite a bit. We've hired an additional full-time social worker, and we have also hired a social services coordinator. The social services coordinator is somebody who is master's prepared, but not yet master's licensed, who will be assisting in clinical but non-licensure oriented tasks. So to give you an example, that involves things like helping families fill out food stamps applications. Excuse me, food stamps applications, helping them get connected to the RAFT program or to Nantucket food, fuel, and rental programs. So a lot of it is resources that involve financial hardship, helping families and the community kind of stay connected to what's available on the island. And we know that that's certainly an ever evolving and ever changing tapestry in the time of COVID. Speaking of which, in terms of just some of the patterns that our department has seen during COVID, some things that I think are worth highlighting are that initially we did see a little bit of a dip in our in-person traffic in terms of people coming in to see us for services. We think that a lot of that had to do with kind of the apprehension of people physically coming into the building. So we really pivoted to figure out what could we do with folks over the phone and over virtual visit platforms. And we've, I think, seen now a steady uptick and expect to see a significant increase in the patient traffic that we're serving as people who previously may not have needed our support, either mental health wise or resource wise, are now needing it in greater numbers and greater acuity than they previously did. The other major change to our team is that we are now responsible for about half of the mobile crisis assessments for patients here in the hospital. So what that means is that when somebody comes to the hospital for a mental health or substance abuse reason, seeking urgent treatment through the emergency room, it used to be that the state contracted crisis provider, which was Fellowship Health Resources, subcontracted to Gosnold, and then also at a different point in time through Bay Cove, that all of those evaluations were done by Gosnold. At this point, we are in sort of a bifurcated system where Gosnold is responsible for the uninsured and underinsured patient population portion, which is what the state contract covers. And we, myself and my colleague, have absorbed responsibility for the assessments for the remaining patients, so patients with other types of insurance. So what that means is that we are assessing people in the emergency room. We are then figuring out, do they meet criteria to go to an inpatient type of program, or can we stabilize them with some other community resources? And then we are providing supportive care to them for the length of time that they're boarding with us in the hospital prior to their transfer. So the reason that I mention this is to say that it's something that we are adding in terms of how our staff is spending our time, which is part of the reason that we expanded our staff. But it also allows us to collect some additional data about how patients are served in that program in terms of how long do they board, how likely are we to be able to stabilize an alternate plan of care so that they're not required to go off island for their services, and kind of where do they go for care, how long do they stay there, what supports do their family receive in the in-between. And it's work that's really near and dear to my heart. It's work that I used to do when I first moved to the island when the contract was held by Fairwinds. So I'm delighted that the hospital has the opportunity to serve patients in this way at this time. And I'm just conscious of time constraints. And certainly I'm happy to go into greater detail in any ways that are helpful. But I recognize that you all may have questions that you would like to see us answered within the time that you've allotted to us.
Cheryl, do you have anything that you want to add to this?
I did from a senior leadership perspective, we identified that, we've identified a lot of things as you work in this world that we're in with the pandemic. And we identified that there are increasing needs in the community related to not only behavioral health, but other community needs, because this has really had a financial impact on a lot of individuals in the community. In addition, Sarah and her team will also be participating and helping facilitate every 3 years, we have to do a community health assessment related to regulatory, but this also gives us an opportunity to see what we need to build, to support the community. As you all know, Gary Shaw is very involved in wanting to support what we can support within the community. So I think I just want to share from that viewpoint. We try to increase the services within social services, even inclusive of bringing back in the those that were helping with the insurance enrollments, or mass health insurance enrollments. Sorry, I was stumbling there. But so I think we're really trying to organize this team to really meet the needs and the requests that we have within this grant.
Elvis, I don't see you, but do you have anything you want to add to us? Hi,
Elvis. No, I think Sarah and Cheryl covered it. I'm more here just for support on the finance side. If there's any questions or anything, we get into that piece. But I think Sarah and Cheryl covered it pretty well.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to let everybody start asking their questions then. John.
At the moment, I don't have any questions, but they might arise after we've had further discussion.
Okay. Linda.
I don't have any questions at the moment. I appreciate the breakdown we just got yesterday, I guess.
Bert.
No questions at this time.
Joe.
Yeah, I just want to understand. So this money is just going, and forgive me, Sarah, I'm new on the committee. So this money is just going towards your social services division within the hospital.
You're on.
Jill, the statement of work breaks it down, kind of the different line item requests per program. So there is a portion of it that is going to the transport of behavioral health patients off island to psychiatric facilities. There's a small portion of it that goes to the certified application counselors, which help folks enroll with Mass Health and Health Connector plans. There is a portion of it that goes to the services that myself and my second social work colleague provide. And then the other clinical support is the portion of our new role, the social services coordinator, that is assisting patients in a similar way, but not at a licensed clinical social work fashion, anything that's kind of sub-licensure.
Okay, so that's great. And I see that that's broken down on page like 6, I think it is. So that's helpful. I need to either ask you or Dorothy or whoever wants to jump in here on the ambulance transport. Maybe I have forgotten, but I thought last year when that appeared before the finance committee, we said that was sort of a one-off, that we were willing to do that. But I need someone to help me with my memory here about what that was, because that's just popping up in my mind about what Denise said, that this was not something they wanted to repeat every year, but maybe I have that completely wrong. And maybe you can guide me there.
I will speak in if you would like me to speak in. Jill, I believe that when we presented and when FinCom spoke with us, it was that we were hoping the hospital would find a different source to do this, but for the year that we were going to, they had a town warrant article up, and we decided that it would be a better use of some funding that we funded the ambulance for last year's fiscal year through the CRC. I do believe what I have not heard from anybody is that they did receive CHIP funding for the ambulance services this year, a grant that they've received that I would like them to touch upon. But we'll get to that in a minute. So Jill, does that answer your question?
Yeah, so what we're saying is we're happy to fund it as long as it's through the CRC and not through a town article. Is that what?
No, I think that it was last year we funded it through the town, through the CRC, instead of it being a simple town article, because we felt that this was the avenue it should go through and not go into town meeting floor. But I'm not sure that if I'm correct, and I don't quote me on this, but I wasn't sure that the FinCom believed it should be something the town should be supporting on a yearly basis. Does that sound correct, Jill, as to the conversation that was had?
Yeah, I feel like it was maybe more about the avenue and not the exactly what was being funded, but the way it was being funded. Is that kind of?
That could be it. Right, that could be, and I think it would be best. I will reach out to get clarification on that for all of us. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, if I recall, you just don't know how much you're going to need every year for that. And so, I think they were concerned that they, the money could be 20 one year and 400 the next. And so this was probably a better avenue.
Well, I'm just going to say based on, I just am going to say based on, and Sarah can back me up on this. I don't know that we have exact numbers right at the moment, but I think as Sarah alluded to it in her presentation, that because of the pandemic, organizations across the country, and it's evident here, we have been having an increase in our behavioral health patients volume, and also the fact of needing perhaps care that's going to require that transfer. I think we have been able to really be as cautious as possible since we've taken on the portion of mobile crisis that we've taken on. It allows us to have a little bit more control of that and how we're handling it. So I have to give kudos to that. And then the last thing from my understanding of discussions last year, and in previous years, we still continue to try to identify avenues for additional funding. Elvis, I'm not aware of any CHIP money, but perhaps you have some answer to that, or Sarah, I'm not aware of anything.
So the CHIP money is specific to money that the hospital has that we are required to give out to community. So by definition, CHIP money wouldn't be money we could use to reimburse our own program. But I also did just want to provide some additional clinical feedback on the ambulance transfer issue if I could take a minute to do that. So
yeah, go ahead. I want to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered in our limited time that we have.
I'll be brief.
And if you could do that clarification, because I was informed by an entity in the town that you had received the fund, there was funding coming through the ambulatory through the CHIP fund. So if we can get that clarified, that would be, I hear what you're saying, Sarah, but we need to get that clarified. So do yours, and then I'm gonna go back to Jill to finish her questioning, okay?
Of course. So one of the things just to highlight from what Cheryl was saying is that we have seen a small but significant intake in the number of patients that are presenting to the hospital requiring sort of emergency crisis services for behavioral health and addiction related reasons. We're seeing that also across the entire MGB system, and we expect that to continue. The other piece of that puzzle too is that when patients aren't able to access more tertiary levels of care, like they want to go to see a therapist in person, but the therapist isn't doing in-person appointments yet, or the clinic previously had drop-in hours, but drop-in hours are on hold, or they used to have a group program, but they're not running a group program right now due to social distancing requirements, or they used to go to AA 5 days a week, but now there's a limited number of in-person meetings they can go to. When patients have less access to tertiary behavioral health care, they're more likely to seek an acute care episode through the hospital. So I think that increase in service is likely one we're going to see until we can finally say we're in a post-COVID age if we ever get there. So that's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to mention is that the mobile crisis program under the state contract is really specific to assessing the patient and determining if they need to be hospitalized, and if so, finding them placement. What we're able to do under our mobile crisis program, and why we've hired additional staff to do it this way, is that we're able to spend a lot of time providing acute-based treatment to that patient while they are with us. So for example, I don't have the averages officially, but just off the top of my head, I'm going to say that when we have a patient with us, boarding with us, our average length of boarding time is about 3 days. We're spending an average of 15 hours with that patient, not only seeking placement, but also figuring out, can we stabilize them? Can we treat them? Can we provide service to them so that we do not have to transfer them to a facility off island? So when we talk about the necessity for behavioral health transport, our team is really exhausting all possible options for care. If there is anything we can do to stabilize somebody so that they do not need to be transferred, I can say that I'm personally, as well as my colleague, taking a really active role in trying to come up with alternatives to treat that patient. The reason that the behavioral health transport issue remains so complicated for our island is that patients that are transferred to a psychiatric facility have to go by ambulance in order to be accepted by that facility. In order to go by ambulance, they have to be held under a section, which is a type of involuntary commitment, meaning we say this patient has to go. They don't get a choice whether they go or not. So it's a little bit tricky to say that the patient themselves should have a responsibility to pay for that ambulance transport when it's the hospital who's saying, I've taken away your right to make that decision. You're being required to go off island for this treatment episode. And that's why it remains something that the hospital is responsible for paying for, because the ambulance contract will not come over to pick up that patient without that payment being arranged through the hospital, and it's not possible to cost share that with the patient. And some of that is something that all hospitals are familiar with, the need to transport patients via ambulance. But what they run into is that the bill is not quite so large because they're transporting a patient much fewer miles away than we are, and that they are having the option for more patients to travel voluntarily to treatment. So for instance, if you have a patient who you know needs a psychiatric placement, but they have family that's supportive that could drive them down the street and around the corner to the psych hospital, a treatment team in the emergency room is very often going to feel comfortable with that plan. But given that our patients would have to travel 6 hours away to that psychiatric placement, we are very rarely feeling that it's clinically appropriate for the patient to make that travel on their own because of how many things could potentially go wrong along the way, given that additional time. So uniquely, Nantucket remains in a position where voluntary placement options are not a feasible option for our patient population, and distance remains a concern.
I don't mean to be rude, but I think we've got a good idea of it, and I think there's some questions, and we're so limited right now to
of course
actually have to be off because there's another Zoom coming on.
Dorothy, I'm sorry, but it's not today. It's Monday that we have to be out at 12:30. Today it doesn't have a time limit.
I'm sorry. I
thought it was today, but it's the 11th.
Sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean to do that, but I didn't mean to. If there was another town meeting coming in,
of course.
And
I think that covers everything I wanted to share.
Okay, so sorry. Thank you, Anne, for clarifying.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. Jill, do you have other questions?
I'm good for right now. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, I do have some questions, as I always do. What would it be if I didn't?
Of course.
So I'm actually the fact that you are providing services in the ER now to insured patients means that the hospital gets reimbursed for those services.
Not at this specific moment in time, no.
No.
So you're seeing insured patients, but their insurance will not cover your seeing them in the ER? Is that what you're telling us?
Not at this time.
Well, is it because you haven't gotten into the process of being able to do the paperwork needed for that? Are you seeing that in the future it will be supplied? Because if you have insurance, a lot of that is, as we all know, covered.
So Dorothy, and Sarah, you might clarify. I'm sorry, I'm just speaking up, but I don't think that what we were trying to align with what we're doing with mobile crisis I don't think that that's time that's added to this grant. I think that that's just showing how the hospital is trying to work and make sure that handling of the behavioral health patients, we're trying to do that as efficiently as possible. And we're trying to show also that we understand in order to meet the elements of what we're trying to do within the grant is that we have the adequate staff in which to do that.
Okay.
And Dorothy, in answer to that part of your question, it's a little bit of both. In the future, it is possible that we will be able to secure insurance contracts where a portion of that time could be reimbursed. However, the average amount of time that we're spending with patients far exceeds the cap that the insurance company provides for those crisis encounters.
Okay. That's a good enough answer.
Yeah.
On the new social service coordinator, that sounds like one of the old positions that used to be sitting in that department a few years ago. Am I correct? It's
similar, but this individual that we've hired has a higher level of education and licensure. So there are certain clinical things that she's more equipped to do than the previous iteration of that role. But in some ways, yes, it is a throwback to a previous staffing pattern of several years ago.
Okay. And as I'm going to go back again, the certified applicant counselors are mandated. Am I not correct? To be on the premise?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Okay, and one of the other things that I just want to point out to everybody while we're on this, oh, I did have a question on the developmental disabilities. Do you know how many people you actually service per year?
It's a very low number of patients that are coming to us requesting help for developmental disability related things. I don't break it down quite that specifically to have the data off the top of my head, but I would say it's probably less than 5 patients a year.
Okay, thank you. And the only other, one of the things, I think I'm going to have a few more questions for you, but our time is so limited. I'm going to have to, I'm going to call it because I know that Linda has to leave and we won't have a quorum. But on, you presented to us a document on, and I don't know what page it actually is. It is under statement of previous results. We're going to not look at this. I just want you to know that this graph here, we're actually not, I've asked everybody not to actually look at it. I think it's cannot be used in a significant way for us because in previous years you have stated that you didn't have a properly recorded sessions with the previous department. And so in order for this to be a fair document, I just want you to know that I have brought it up and asked because of that, we not look at it, we not reflect on the data in that, because I don't believe that is fair data for us to be looking at.
I understand what you're saying about the difference in reporting from different eras of the department. I think that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
And in future graphs, certainly I can say, this is the data that I have control over, that I feel I can represent accurately. This is the data that I'll be reporting on and reflecting on.
Yeah, we just wanted.
That's good feedback.
Where you actually were able to start the process and the way you took on the data should be in here.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense.
Okay. And due to the fact that we do have the time restraints and I have to respect the fact that Linda has stayed on for us. Thank you, Linda. I will have some questions. I will probably send them out to you via email, maybe to you, Elvis.
You want to ask him now, Dorothy, go ahead. I'm just going to hang out.
No, I think I have some things I would like to go over and come back with some questions for them, Linda.
Okay.
And I will do that. Taking your information, I also want to be able to go back over minutes that we've had in discussions in regards to the ambulance that Jill brought up.
I do have one question, Dorothy, when you're done.
Yeah, of course. And so I will be getting back to all of you, and I want some clarification on, I need to find clarification on the subject that was brought up to me about funding that was given to the hospital for ambulatory services outside of the town, which I think is very important that we understand, okay? So I will get back to you that with some questions you can, and we'll get back and forth. And then if I have to call you guys back in, I will call you guys back in, okay?
That sounds good. We're appreciative of the time that it takes to pull those questions together. So thank you for that.
Okay, and then we will do some kind of, I forgot to mention this last time, but we will do some kind of meeting with you guys. 1 or 2 of us. We're probably going to aim for it for next week. Okay. So that'll be down the pike and we'll send that out in the email. So Linda, you have a question, please go ahead with your question.
It just occurred to me because I know a couple of my foster kids have had trouble with it. They've, over the months, I mean, not during COVID, but they've had trouble getting a call back repeatedly when they've tried to get Mass Health signups or questions about signing up for Mass Health. Are you guys still helping people with signing up for Mass Health?
Absolutely, we are. And we have a really high volume of patients that are seeking that assistance. So sometimes it does take our application counselors some time to return those phone calls. But if people have concerns that their calls aren't being returned in a timely fashion, certainly they can always escalate that feedback to me, and I'm happy to look into it.
Because I have told them to try to get a hold of you and they haven't been able to do that either. So I just wanted to let you know that that was a continuing problem with my oldest, who's 27, 28 now. Oh God, 28.
Yeah, I think that I would reiterate what Linda has said. I have heard that a great deal in the last short bit here about.
So I
having-
just want, okay, so I just want to let you know that Sarah they are just moving those counselors back under Sarah's leadership. That previously they were under another leader, and I'm not sure what the communication issues have been, but I do know that if you'll instruct them to get a hold of Sarah, her and her team will address it.
Okay, and they speak Spanish still?
We have the ability for translation.
Okay.
I think that has been, I have heard that a great deal, actually. People saying they're just getting really frustrated with it. So Linda,
it's good feedback to hear. And certainly it's something that once those staff are under my department again, I can take a look at figuring out what we can do about that.
How long were they not under your department?
Several years.
Yeah, because that was, they couldn't get to you and they couldn't get anybody to call them back and they left. And because they're required to leave a message, so they would leave message, and nothing would happen for weeks.
Well, and as she said, that's good feedback. Sarah officially takes over those counselors on the 24th, I think. Is that right, Sarah? And so we will make sure that we address that concern and apologize for what has happened in the past. I'd have to investigate what had occurred. But I think moving forward, just know that we will be responsive to any request and help that is needed for that. That's been our purpose.
Well, I feel much more comforted that they're coming back under Sarah because they had been at one point all together under Peter. And then it got all split up, which was a bad idea. And now it's coming back under Sarah, who's got complete control of this. And I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to it as well.
Yes.
Okay. I need to find some answers to some of the questions that came up before I can pursue any further questioning to you guys. So with that being said, Elvis, Sarah, Sherry, thank you very much. I appreciate all your effort and being here today. We will reach out to you about setting up for an interview as well. Stay healthy, please. Okay.
And you all as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Get vaccinated.
Well, we are getting vaccinated. That's the good news.
Well, hurry up so that the rest of us that are in line behind you can move up.
Well, we're also helping with that process. So that should be happening very quickly.
Are you saying for those of us over 65, it's coming shortly?
Everything's in the works to start with the community. Roberto's oversighting that for the community, but we're supporting him.
Do you have a particular timeline? Because my family's anxious for me.
That's kind of up to the state and how they are sending things out. So I haven't been intimately involved in the exact timeline. So Roberto will have a better idea of the timeline.
All right, I'll just email Roberto.
Okay.
So thank you guys again. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
I want to give you I don't know if everybody can stay on. We have a quick update on Gosnold. And that is that I spoke with them. I called them. I sent an email. I finally got a response to the email where I had asked that we had had a conversation and that they had told me they would be responding to me within a couple of days. She called me that we have not gotten the official withdrawal from the grant process in a written letter. As of us going on to our meeting today, they did respond to me in an email yesterday stating that we had a conversation that they were going to get back to me by the end of the week in regards to Gosnold as a whole. And so I will have an answer by Friday as to where Gosnold is going to be standing in this community in the future. I'm assuming from what I understand, because they did tell me, so I'm not assuming, they did tell me they are pulling out of the grant process. We just need it in writing. So what we're looking forward to is hearing what Gosnold's future plans will be. I have the understanding that it might be pulling out of our community 100%, which would be sad. So when I get the answers to that, I will let everybody know in regards to that, okay?
So long as they maintain a relationship with Fairwinds, that's the way it was for years. They weren't here at all. So I think we're going back to the way it was.
I know, but I do know that they offered some support services that were very much appreciated and used. So it will be, we need to see, my intent is to find out what's going on so I have a good idea of where we might be lacking somewhere as we go through this process coming forward to us.
Yeah.
And Jill, I will find out those answers for you on those questions. I had been told by town that they had received a grant towards ambulances from another entity. So I do want to find out about that before we go on to the voting process. And I want to get a clarification on what we had agreed upon for last year. So I will let you know, Jill, as soon as I have that information in front of me.
Okay, sorry I couldn't remember. We had 120 some odd citizen articles last year. I just remember that there was something about that. It was considered a one-off, but as you say, I don't know if that was process or the actual funding of that.
Correct.
I remember it the same way you do, Jill, that it was told, they were told that this was a 1 year only situation and to work out something else, don't come back.
I thought they were going through capital at one point.
Yeah, I think we discussed them doing in-house fundraising to do this. Some entity to make sure that they could continue this service, and that the town wasn't completely behind this. I want to get a little bit more answers. I personally have a little bit of misconceptions about, where the funding is actually going and how much of it is what the services they're actually providing right now at the hospital. So I think it'll be good when I get some more answers to be able to come and be forthright with you, with everybody, with the information I have. Okay.
I just know that MedFlight has been incredibly active for months.
MedFlight has.
Is MedFlight counted in the ambulance transport?
No, but that's how they've been getting off island is by MedFlight.
That's not how they've been flying. I don't think that's how they've been flying off these people.
Yeah.
It is MedFlight? I thought they were doing it by ambulatory services.
They have been doing it by ambulance, but I know that MedFlight seems to be up.
But I think MedFlight has been up because of limited resources right now here. But I will find that out because that would be interesting. MedFlight is not in the numbers that they're telling us. If you've ever had to be MedFlighted out of here, the numbers are ridiculous, and it is covered by a portion of insurances. So I know that MedFlight can cost up to $10,000-$15,000 to get out of here. So
yep.
So I'll find that out.
When's our next meeting, Dorothy?
Our next meeting is on Monday, the 11th, and I just want to let everybody know that I will be ending that meeting promptly at 12. I've been informed I have a medical procedure that I have to go for.
Who is on that Monday? Do we have anybody that Monday, or is it just us talking?
It's us talking. It's our deliberations. So,
right, so it's Monday at 10?
Monday at 10.
Okay.
And I think then I'll be able to have some information, some better information. I want that Fairwinds financials ahead of me, and I have some questions over the hospital that I want to find out.
Now, when do you want to assign who's going to visit where, when the whole board is together next Monday?
Yeah, or I'm going to send out an email to everybody and let's see if people can respond via the email once we get responses.
And do not respond to everybody.
No, you have to respond to Anne, but
Yeah.
I think everybody understands that. We just respond to Anne. Okay. Any questions or comments from anybody?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. With that being said, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Can I get a roll call, please? John?
Aye.
Bert,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, guys.
See you
And
next week.
thank you very much. And
Oh, wow, sorry. Okay, we'll see you Monday.
thank you.
Monday.
Say bye.
Bye.